Oh, got your glow sticks?
Oh, yes.
I actually like it.
You are, but you've got a bit of a hard house background.
I'm wearing rave pants right now.
You are.
Well, look, we'll keep that one on the short list.
I don't mind it.
I don't know. I feel uneasy about actually settling on something. It's been such a journey to get to the point where we are.
Maybe we're just getting worn down by it. We're just agreeing to anything now.
Yeah. We'll get our walk-on song sorted.
Yeah.
We might even be zeroing in on it.
Well, maybe that'll be in the final contenders.
Hello and welcome to the CarsGuide Podcast, where we tear down, pressure test and rebuild the issues of the automotive week. I'm James, and with me are Richard.
Hello.
And M4.
G'day.
This week, we'll look at tough trucks, a new Commodore, racing sports cars around the clock at Mount Panorama, and plenty more. But first, MUSK WATCH. Yep, he's actually done it. Our old mate Elon has fired a Tesla Roadster into space. I would argue increasing space junk in the process, but on a journey to Mars, complete with a spacesuit-clad Starman driver, and one of the car's circuit boards is printed with the words, "Made on Earth by humans."
Yeah.
So this is one promise that Elon's kept. What do you think, Richard?
I'm so excited. A couple of weeks ago, I told Elon that it was all over between us because of the dyno idea that he has for his charging stations. And James, Matt, I'm in love again.
Oh my God.
This is the best. This is so good.
We have the Kool-Aid kept in this office anyway.
Seriously, Elon is going to drag us kicking and screaming into the future whether we're ready or not.
Okay. That's good. I admire your positive attitude. What do you think, M4?
Look, I think he has kept a promise. He did say a little while ago that he was going to send his own Tesla Roadster to the Mars world.
Yeah. Otherwise known as Mars.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, good on him.
I saw the pictures online and I thought, actually, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
I surprised myself with how I reacted to it. But look, on the positive side of the ledger as well, another deal with the South Australian government, already installed some backup, battery capacity for that state, which has had a rocky past in terms of consistent power supply. So now Tesla's done a new deal to supply ultimately 50,000 homes with solar panels and batteries for free to build what's claimed to be the world's largest virtual power plant. So these installations will actually feed back into a grid. So it will reduce the individual household's power bill and also increase overall production. So it'll be a trial, 100 homes by June 30, another 1,000 in the following 12 months, then 24,000 housing trust type properties, and then it'll be opened up. The other half will go to South Australian households. Sounds like an amazing deal.
Absolutely. And I read another story recently talking about how much Tesla Inc. is hemorrhaging. Apparently, they've had to address the shareholders regarding that. The constant, incredible, the profit failures they're having.
The financial plug.
The financial plug
is open.
Yeah,
it's pouring out.
Apparently, it's being addressed. 2018 is expected to be the turnaround year. Model 3 is going to roll out. They're experiencing bottlenecks in their gigafactory, which is producing the batteries.
Too many gigas.
Not enough factory. And once those are addressed, things are going to be apparently back on track again.
Okay.
And straight after that launch, actually, Elon announced he's always quick to move on to the next thing.
He is.
He announced
That's
that
part of his character.
Even larger rocket is going to be built. And this one is going to it'll have the capacity to send up to 100 people to Mars. It's been called the BFR, which is the big rocket.
Whoa! I thought it was stood more for the big Falcon rocket because they got their Falcon Heavy. So this would be the Super Heavy.
That's right. Yeah, the Super Heavy one.
100 people to Mars.
100 people to Mars.
Wonder what the selection process will be. You're putting your hand up, Richard.
I'd like to go.
Yeah, you would.
I'd like to go.
Yeah, but then it's probably you're not coming back.
It's a one-way.
Mission.
It's one way. I'm happy. I'm fine with that.
I would not be okay with that.
What do you mean? Like, what's here?
Okay. Well, look, happily, we are onto it. Our weekly updates is keeping people appraised of what's going on in the weird and wacky world of Elon Musk. So we'll revisit again next week. That's it for MUSK WATCH. Fantastic. To new product news. This week, our very own Crafty, adventure editor for CarsGuide, has been up in Thailand where Ford was orchestrating the global launch of its Ranger Raptor, which, as the racy name implies, is a pumped-up, more macho version of the Ranger. It's been unveiled. He was there. It was just a static launch. He hasn't driven the vehicle just yet. But initial impressions are around the fact that it's going to be available with a 2-litre twin-turbo diesel engine up front, while there was some expectation that there might be something a little more muscular under the bonnet. M4, what's your mail on that?
Yeah, look, I think people had predicted that there might be something more grunty than the diesel that they've shown, but it's still got 500 newton meters of torque from a 2-litre engine.
It does,
pretty strong.
How many kilowatts? 250 though?
No, it's 156.
Yeah, so seems low on kilowatts, but I mean, when you compare that to a Amarok, it's not too bad at all.
Yeah.
10-speed automatic.
Yeah, 10-speed auto.
Pretty impressive.
Yeah.
But 2.5-ton towing, which could be a bit of a question mark for a few buyers. But then again, you're not really buying this car if you are a hardcore
tower.
Yeah, I would say this is a toy.
It's about a ton underneath the kind of class expectation.
I would argue that hardcore towers would be the main market for it.
Hardcore towers,
No,
you would?
I'm being rude.
Okay.
I think that what we're waiting for...
Are you taking your shoes and socks off? You're talking about toes.
Barbara's looking at me with a frustrated
towers.
look.
Okay.
What I want to know is it looks fantastic. It's massive. It's 5.3 meters long. Plus, it's wider than regular Ranger.
Yeah.
But yeah, that 2-litre engine concerns me. There is thought that the V6, which is in the F-150, will possibly be coming
been
out.
digging around as he sidles up to people and kind of prizes information out of them. He reckons rumours abound that engine, which is 336 kilowatts and 690 newton meters, may find its way under the bonnet of the Raptor. Now, that'd be something.
That'd be more appropriate, I reckon, for that vehicle.
Yeah, but it's not unusual for brands to introduce sportier looking utes with extra styling stuff that don't have any extra power. Like there's going to be the HSV Sports Cat Colorado.
TRD Hilux.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff.
It's a thing that happens. You just have to accept it.
Our guess, it hasn't been announced yet, but Crafty's putting it around $75,000.
That's a lot of money.
As the cost of entry
That's a lot.
for that vehicle.
I think it's fair.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, because
$75,000.
people don't stop themselves when they buy a $65,000 Ranger Wild Track and then spend $30,000 on accessories. This isn't going to stop anyone, and it's, in fact, I think it'll be hugely popular.
Well, funnily enough, it bears an uncanny resemblance to a lot of the highly modified Rangers that you see around anyway.
Yeah.
You know, there's an aftermarket grille that you can buy that has the big Ford lettering across US 150 style and all of that. So, yeah, it's not a bad point. That probably people can keep their hands in their pockets for that kind of aftermarket stuff.
And if you want to see it do some cool jumps, watch our video on Facebook.
Cool jumps or sweet jumps? I think it's more
sick
sweet
jumps. Is it
sick
jumps?
Sick
jumps.
jumps.
I think they're cool, but the driver when he comes out and shows the thing off on stage, he does a few jumps, and it looks like
he just jumps up and down.
No.
The truck as well.
The car.
Wow.
And it looks like it settles itself pretty well. I mean, it's got heavily modified suspension.
It's got a pretty tricky suspension in there. Yeah.
That's been one of the massive announcements actually. Those no leaf springs in the back,
coils there, but also a kind of hydraulic management system that's really
from
rather
Fox
clever.
Racing.
Racing. And so that if you want to see it, if you want to see the jumps, the cool jumps,
fat jumps,
go to our Facebook page and check it out.
Now, speaking of new product, another significant one is a new Holden Commodore. And in times past, it really would be a big milestone event. Commodore isn't exactly the car that it was in the past. So our main man, Mal, editor of CarsGuide, has been down in Victoria. His story will be upcoming. What we can rely on currently is some impressions we got from driving prototypes down in Lang Lang. And look, the car looks contemporary, but I would say kind of unremarkable. It's clean enough, but it doesn't set any new kind of benchmarks or standards for design.
One of the things that stayed with me for a long time is when you said at the launch, you walked right past it.
I did. Yeah.
That's saying something.
Yeah. Like, oh, that's it.
Yeah.
Wow. So, Yeah, it's inoffensive but unremarkable. So that's a subjective thing, and it's going to affect different people different ways. It is demonstrably smaller, but it feels full size inside. The space efficiency is pretty good. There's a 2-litre 4-cylinder petrol, and these prototypes included a 2-litre diesel as well. I think that's made it to market, so that's happening. And then you've got a 230 kilowatt V6, and you start to get the option of all-wheel drive. And in driving the car, admittedly on Holden's home turf, it was their Lang Lang Proving Ground in Victoria, the local tuning of the suspension to me felt like a big success, because they in fact had a European spec car that had come straight off the Opel production line without any local tuning, and the difference was quite apparent. So to me, it felt comfy and capable, but nothing groundbreaking,
I actually spoke to a Holden dealer yesterday, and he told me that he'd driven both of the cars, the V6 and the 2-litre turbo, and he thought that the 2-litre turbo was the better engine and will sell better than the 6.
Yeah.
So it's going to be, that's going to mark a shift in Commodore buyer as it is.
Front wheel drive though.
Yeah.
I mean, do Australians care?
It's a mega shift. I think, modern Australia doesn't care. Times past, you'd be using your sedan or wagon to tow. Now you've got an SUV, or you've got something else to do that job. And that's why, really, the diminishing importance of cars like the Holden Commodore and the Ford Falcon came to be. Because that shift happened. And you'd think, Commodore, big deal. It's going to be one of many now. It's a hatchback. It's a 2-litre front-wheel drive car, and it doesn't have a unique kind of positioning.
If you want to hear the sound of the V6, I think Mal's on Instagram, and he's done a quick Insta video of him revving the engine.
Oh, okay.
And it sounds really good. Yep. Like, it sounds like it's got a bit of grunt. Like, it sounds fierce.
Right.
Okay. But yeah.
All right. Well, Mal's words will be up and available in the near future, so keep an eye out for that at CarsGuide. Now, the third plank of our new product run around, Richard, you've been jeeping. You've gone to drive the new Compass.
Jeep Compass, yeah. This is a new generation Compass. The Compass sort of fits in Jeep's lineup between the Renegade. So it's bigger than the Renegade, but it's smaller than the Cherokee. But it actually looks like a mini version of the Grand Cherokee. It looks really good. Now, I was a bit sort of skeptical going in. I wasn't sure what I was going to be driving in terms of drive and feel and ride and handling, but I was impressed.
Okay.
And super impressed by the off-road component we did.
Right.
Again, I was thinking, this looks tough. It's got red tow hooks on the Trailhawk, sort of more off-road capable one. But they took us up some places where I thought they were being pretty ambitious, and it wriggled its way through without anything falling off.
Great.
With anyone getting stuck.
So the open mind that you went into it with, did you have a kind of the hat on saying this is going to be a 4-wheel drive? So, you had a certain expectation in terms of...
No, well, see, the thing is, most of the SUVs in this small SUV category are only city-based.
Yeah.
So they look like a 4-wheel drive. They look tough, but really they're a car underneath.
Sure.
So I was just looking at the Compass thinking this is the same type of thing, but we spent more time off-road than we did on the road.
All right.
Really impressed.
I'd recommend that people go and have a look at the video that Richard's starred in. In fact, he co-stars as well.
Yes.
I won't say any more, but have a look. It's an innovative way of covering the bases on different models, but check that out. I think it's well worth it. But now, a word from our good friends at Winton Motor Company.
Australian performance drivers love their cars, and the performance car they love the most is the one that's done it all. From the Mount Panorama Winners Circle to your driveway, all roads lead to Winton. The 2018 Winton Turbo now features an even more potent version of the powerhouse Redback 2-stroke V9 Turbo, backed up by the latest generation version of our patented Torque Tumbler transmission technology. Once you eye it and try it, we guarantee you'll buy it. Australia's Winton Turbo. Inspiration is standard.
Torque Tumbler transmission available at extra cost. Wheels and tyres sold separately. Batteries not included. Consult your Winton dealer for final pricing.
Where's Frosty, you may ask, after hearing that? Now, he, of course, is a friend of the show. He's head of media relations at Winton Motor Company.
That's right.
Richard, you said you saw him at the Bathurst 12 Hour.
Yeah, look, I was at the Bathurst 12 Hour on the weekend, and I was in the car park. We went and did a little video in the car park, and I spotted what I thought was a Winton tail light, and sort of walked down between the row of cars in the VIP car park. And who did I see? But who had their leg out the door?
Yeah.
And, I know it's, not
Winton
PC to
Turbo's
say.
Unmistakable for a start.
Cigarette hanging out his mouth.
Oh.
There was Frosty.
He's on the Gaspers again.
Already.
Oh, he was trying to give that up.
All right. Well, I think he was sneaking one off in the car park.
Well, I mean, he and the 12 Hour do have a pretty long history.
Yes.
In that he was behind the scenes mover and shaker with the Bathurst 24 Hour, which was in the early noughties. He still wants to increase the race time. Richard, he had a word in your ear about that.
He had a word in my ear. Yeah, look, we had a chance to speak. He wants to do the Bathurst 72 hour.
72 hours, so 3 days straight.
3 days straight.
Yeah, wow.
One driver.
3 days straight.
It becomes more of a competition to stay awake than just race.
Yeah.
But that's Frosty. That's how he thinks.
It's like a dance contest where the last people are actually falling asleep on the dance floor.
That's
wow.
right.
You might have to have like airbag barriers around the entire track.
like bumper bowl,
That's a good
bowl
idea.
Bathurst.
Exactly.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Should do that.
3 days straight of bumper car racing around Mount Panorama.
That would be fantastic.
That would be awesome. So, but look, besides the interlude with Frosty, Richard, you were there for the race.
Yep.
What did you make of it? What's your impressions? Was it your first time?
It was my first time.
Okay.
Been to the Bathurst 1000 a squillion times. This was my first Bathurst 12 hour. I was expecting a much more posher event, and I found pretty much the same. In a lot of cases, the same people who go to a Bathurst 1000 and spectators were there for the 12 hour as well.
Yeah.
Still, people at the top of the mountain, all camping out with all their eskies
On the cans.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
So they were there too.
Right.
What I didn't expect was for the day to go so quickly. It began at 4:45 in the morning. We were up at 3 o'clock in the morning to get there, and then it finished at about 4:45 in the afternoon. It was 12 hours, but it didn't feel like it. In fact, it got down to the last hour, and I was up the top of the mountain, and I had to scramble to get back down again so I could see the cars cross the line.
Finish,
and I was running out of time. I wanted it to be longer.
So you're expecting it to feel premium because the brands that are involved in the racing, they're all pretty
Bentley,
upmarket
you've got
things, yeah?
BMW, you've got Audi. We were there as guests of Audi, and I was expecting a really, a high-end feel. And there is, there's AMG GTs racing and Bentleys, and of course there is. But there's also Mazda 3s.
Yeah, right.
Racing too. So it was great.
How'd they go up against the Bentleys? With the Mazda 3s giving them a good run for their money?
One of my favourite cars because they rolled past sounding like a V8 supercar. They were hilarious. This tiny little Mazda 3 sound going, fantastic.
Great.
Yeah.
Oh, that's beatboxing, Richard, that just came out there. Okay. And speaking of Bathurst and Mount Panorama, last time round we spoke briefly about the development of a new circuit, and my homework was to go and investigate that. We know that it's called Velocity Park. It'll be partly funded by the New South Wales government to the tune of about $15 million. Bathurst City Council by another 27, and it's going to sidestep the resident access issues that plague the main Mount Panorama circuit. It's also the cost of hiring that big track puts it out of many people's scope, so it'll bring that on board, and a bid to get motorcycle racing back to Bathurst. So a pitch for the MotoGP in the late 2020s, that seems on the cards. I wasn't able to talk to him before today, but I'm going to talk to the Mayor of Bathurst Regional Council, Graham Hanger, and get the details from him as to where things are at, because there's some Commonwealth funding to be forthcoming as well.
Will that change the complete layout of the track?
It'll be, as I understand, it'll be discrete. It's going to be about 4.5 kilometres long, and it'll have 14 corners, and the current proposal says that you can configure that into 9 different arrangements, so you can actually make 9 different circuits from the one big jigsaw of a racetrack, if you like.
So there won't be a cutting, a skyline, a forest elbow anymore, or anything like that, or
no, it'll be someone else's elbow. It'll be a completely different track.
They can't do that.
No, it's a different place.
No, stuff the residents.
Well, look, Richard, the Mount Panorama circuit is not going to be bulldozed and made into pasture. that stays there.
Oh.
This is a second one.
Oh, it's somewhere else.
Yeah,
that's what I was thinking.
Saw the relief
one.
just wash over your
yeah.
face.
So they're going to keep...
It's on the western side of Mount Panorama.
Oh, thank God.
Oh, God. All right. Well, at least we brought Richard up to speed. That's fantastic.
Next time, you might be able to clarify it even further, James, with your interview.
That's right. You're going to be speaking to the mayor who answers the questions himself.
I'll get him to give you a call as well.
Oh, that'd be good.
So just for a quick kind of filler-upper on what's happening.
Send him the Google map.
And I don't know about you guys, but speaking of motor racing, this week, Jaguar announced that they're going to build the last 25 D-type racing cars that were always intended to be produced but never were. The original number was to be 100, and that car was obviously hugely successful. It won 3 Le Mans Classics from 1955, 56 and 57. They only built the 75. Now they've said, well, we're going to fill in that gap and build the last 25 using the original blueprints, all of the knowledge that they have on board. I just find that, for some reason, extremely satisfying. What do you make of it?
How good is Jaguar and Land Rover being about their history?
Yeah,
lately?
it's really great.
There's a massive focus from the British brands to look back at what they've done in the past, and maybe reinvigorate people into thinking about buying a Jaguar or a Land Rover over one of the German competitors.
I mean, in having a brand with so much heritage, but then being on the leading edge as well in terms of developing new technology, that's magic. That is a really full and magical brand. When you've got that long backstory and you're looking so far ahead, that's really special.
Plus, they're making use of tooling and resources that they might not otherwise be able to use with their newer cars.
That's true.
And people with expertise that maybe they might not want to be retrained into the new world.
Now, you can order either a 1955 style short nose, or you can have your car as the 56 spec longer nose. So that's amazing. It comes on the back of them having built 9 XKSSs, which was the road-going version of the D-Type anyway, that were tragically burned in a fire partway through completion. So they've filled that little gap. And they also built 6 lightweight Jaguar E-types that were never built in period.
From memory, that was because they had, was it 6 VIN numbers left over?
Yeah,
that's right.
And they applied the VIN numbers to those cars. That's absolutely
so they're
brilliant.
legitimate. It's not like they've gone, let's do an extended run. They still had 6 dedicated VIN numbers for the rest of the E-types.
Exactly, and they're not going to do any more, meaning that people that own the earlier D-types, the value of their cars won't be diminished in any way. It's just fulfilling their original commitment. Is
the new D-type planned similar to that E-type before, with the VIN numbers left over?
I presume so. I don't know, but you'd have to presume that would be the case.
Yeah.
And look, with D-types pulling around an average 3 million at the moment, it'll be interesting to see what people ultimately pay for these new cars.
It's kind of the equivalent of a Jurassic Park thing where they reclone the dinosaur. Because they don't build the D-type from modern materials. It's all
buried in amber. And all you have to do is split that block apart and start the car
It's dangerous, though. Once those D-types get out there, though, you can't stop them.
The fences come down, D-types are at you.
D for dinosaur.
Well, there's also our colleagues at Oversteer made a fantastic story. There's a video on there that explains the whole background to it. It's fantastic. And speaking of Oversteer, now a word from our full of bean friends at Oversteer.
When you're done listening to these old farts ramble on,
can I tell a story?
Come and listen to the Oversteer Podcast, where we talk about the stuff that kids love.
Story time with Mitchy Boy.
Yeah, because if I don't try, I won't fail.
Like, you know how you roll into a petrol station and you're like,
would you rather be designated driver for a group of kids on a sugar high or a group of super drunk adults?
Yes, the Oversteer Podcast has everything, and you can find it on the CarsGuide website, iTunes, and where all good podcasts are sold.
Oh, those guys.
I don't know. They have a dig at us, but I still like them.
That's true. I think they're on drugs.
Now, M4,
accusation.
It's great that you're with us, because you're onto the fact that BP's been rolling out some mobile electric charge points in the UK. What does that mean, and what are the implications for Australia?
Well, unfortunately, it looks like there won't be any impact on Australia in terms of having electric charge points at service station forecourts. That's what the whole strategy is, that they'll offer different fuel types for different people with different cars in the same place. By having them as mobile units, it means they don't have to hardwire anything in. which means they can move with the infrastructure
according to demand.
Exactly. So if
by mobile, you just mean they're on wheels.
It's a trailer.
Yeah.
A big battery on a trailer. So it's a really smart move, I think, from BP. They're investing in the company that's doing it, and I can't remember their name at the moment, but it's a great move. I think they've done a bit of research into the fact that people will want to be able to charge and have convenience at the same time. I mean, we've seen that supermarkets and convenience stores are the real reason people go to the servo these days. Yeah. The amount of money that, I think the profit they make, service stations make, is more
from the groceries,
from the lollies,
all of that stuff.
Just out of service station sunglasses alone, they're killing it.
Well, you own several pairs.
I do,
and you're partial to a servo pie as well.
Oh, I love a pie from a servo.
But as a punter, do you know, M4? Would I hook up my car and I pay? It's I don't know that. I don't think they've released that information yet. They're just getting the tech out there.
Yeah,
they know they've got to be into it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I think they are going to look at doing it in Australia if it's successful, and if there's more incentives for Australians to buy electric cars. At the moment, there aren't any, but in the UK and Europe, which is where this program is going to roll out firstly. That's where the incentives are. That's where the governments are saying, hey, we've got to do something about the emissions in our area, so let's put some money into people's pockets.
Well, also you think about the point you made about groceries being a big seller for these service stations. If you're a Tesco or a major kind of grocery chain in the UK, you want to have charging bays in your car park to make sure that electric drivers can easily access your store.
Well, it totally makes sense, doesn't it? It's a fuel station anyway, and fuel doesn't have to be petrol.
Sure.
So it makes sense that you traditionally just filled up on petrol. You can also charge your car.
Yeah.
But what I want to know is there a danger of the chargers being too close to the fuel?
Probably.
I would imagine that they'd have
a
done
wall. They have a wall.
Someone,
shell code.
Someone on a much higher pay scale than any of us will have thought about that. You'd hope.
Yeah.
Now we've got a few minutes left. We'll do a quick whip around. So a minute or so from each of you guys on what you've been driving this week. Richard.
I've been driving a BMW X5. It's the xDrive 40D, big diesel.
The big engine.
Big engine. I picked up a king single bed last night. Managed to fit the bed in. And the bed.
A king size
single bed. So the bed frame.
A king single.
Yeah,
not a king size bed. Wow. I was about to say.
No, so king single mattress.
Right.
And I'm not getting a divorce, ladies and gentlemen. It's for my son.
You're not living
you wouldn't fit on it anyway.
You are living in the car.
It became a shag and wagon because
you put braiding around the windows.
Yeah, and a Sandman mural on the side.
I'll let BMW know to get the blue light out for that. So.
Oh yeah,
if the X5's rocking,
don't come.
Yeah.
No.
Okay, so that's pretty good.
Yeah, that's been fun. It's very powerful. I've enjoyed spearing it around the city. But I've been holding on to that for a while, so enjoying it.
M4, what's been your transport?
I've had 2 different vehicles this week. I've been in the Volkswagen Tiguan Adventure, which we've published the review of.
Yep.
I was really impressed with that car. It's a terrific car. I took it off-road, even though it's not really an off-roader. It did fairly well. And the other car I've been driving is the Holden Barina, which... they still sell it.
Okay.
And I don't know whether they should be.
In terms of your feedback, how about those swans, eh? Amazing.
Yeah, not loving it. The marketplace in the light car segment is pretty fierce.
Sure.
And there's no room for stragglers, and it seems like this is a bit of a straggler.
Well, talking of that market, I've been in the Toyota Yaris in an SX. Order. The SX is the mid-spec level car, so it steps up from a 1.3 to a 1.5 litre petrol engine, and it's under $20,000 before on-road costs, and it's 5-star ANCAP. It's got a reversing camera, nav. It has a leather trimmed steering wheel and gear knob, and you get in and go, wow, this is a $19,500 car. It doesn't have a lot of performance, and ours was a kind of pulsing bright yellow, which was a fairly confronting colour.
I call it pine lime splice.
Pine lime splice, it was. But as a proposition to just drive in traffic, and that's where I was most of this week, just to and fro, it was painless. You'd always love a little more from those smaller cars. You'd love a little more get up and go, but not a lot. I thought it was pretty good. I enjoyed the experience. Yeah.
Speedo still in the centre?
No.
No.
It's more in the front bit there.
Yeah.
I think that was Echo, wasn't it? Had that? Did that transfer?
I think
over
it
to yours?
transferred over to Yaris.
First
one?
Yaris that they came out. It
All
had
right.
That's how long it's been since I've been in a Yaris.
Wow. We should get him into one.
Happy to stick in the X5. Mate.
All right. Well, look, on that note, we have indeed reached the finish line. Thank you, Richard.
Thank you.
And M4.
Thank you.
Thanks too to our producer, Barbara, on the panel. He always dresses to impress. We just don't know who. And thank you for listening. We'd love to hear your thoughts on today's show or anything else that's on your mind. Search for Cars Guide on Facebook and Instagram and use the hashtag CGPodcast or email us at comments@carsguide.com.au. Please subscribe. It would really help the podcast if you rate and reviewed us on iTunes. It helps spread the word. Please, do it now.
Please
do it.
Please.
Do it now. Do it now.
Please.
Do it now while you're thinking of it. Thank you. I hope you can join us next week. Until then, if you had to choose between unlimited fuel and perfect love, what's the first place you'd drive to?